Hello, everyone. I am Storyteller. Thank you for visiting this peaceful place. I know you are looking for something soothing to help you fall asleep, and I am here to accompany you. If you enjoy, please give me a like and subscribe, and let me know where you are from. Thank you. How to go back. 2 years ago, I stared into the eyes of a little dead girl. She was sprawled on some highway, deep in what used to be the Midwest, her dead, fermenting eyes staring past me, and up, up, up into the sun-bleached sky. They didn't leave many bodies behind when they left, didn't want to find skeletons when they came back, I assume. Her skin was dark and leathery. There was a hole growing in her cheek. Blue tendrils came twirling out of the rotted, bony mass with those little orange tips. I wished they were green. I missed the trees, the grass. The closest thing to nature are the dead bodies with the synthetic viruses, eating themselves towards the clouds. Puny fingernail scratches on deep blue skin. She might have been dead for 3 months, 6 at a stretch. The first thing I felt when I saw her was excitement. She was the closest thing I'd seen to another person in 6 years. My father's body had been more pristine, less infected by the now, a perfect conservation of the then. There was only the tight, red little hole in his temple, the pool of dark, sticky blood pooling around bits of his brain, staring at me like a sick, foaming, red-furred dog. His eyes were stained red by blood, and they sat uncomfortably in their sockets, dislodged by the force of a bullet tearing it all up behind them. He was smiling, a slash of red teeth, red eyes popping. I half expected them to flick towards me, half expected the revolver, still lying loosely in his palm, to fire a matching shot through my own temple. I was relieved when he killed himself, as I was when I saw the dark hole in that little girl's cheek. I took the gun, I took his shoes, I turned around, and I left. As I reached the crest of the yellow hill, I looked back at him, lying like roadkill on the highway, in the dead yellow grass, our truck lying upside down, smoking, a few feet away. I wiped blood from my forehead, and I pressed on, the sun belching like a toad-white bubble of heat that burst around me periodically. There was a similar gunshot in the little girl's calf that poked out from her purple nightgown. It was the nightgown that made me vomit. I heaved onto the tarmac. I heaved and I heaved. She was so young, the same age as me probably, when I left my father's corpse to rot in the fat white sun that turned the sky gray from its heat. It happened in the night, I thought, sitting on the tarmac, staring at the little dead girl. There were faint, sun-baked faint tire marks on the road. She had gone, I thought, so young. She died, seething with red-hot pain, alone in the inky night, not an inkling of who she once might have been. The sun was rising, the sky was losing her blue. The pile of vomit to my side would begin to cook soon, like a stinking goose egg in a frying pan. I stood up. I looked at her once more, a china doll, cracked up and fading in the sun. I turned my head back to the road, the tarmac melting into a black puddle on the horizon. It had been the last wink of winter that day. Or what would have been winter? My diary says so. March 3rd. It's almost definitely wrong. The last time I was really sure of the day, the month, the year, I was 9. The day the school caught fire and burned down. The village burned for a week. The school was first, a black plume into the purpley gray midday sky. The grass was already threadbare, yellow. The buildings were lazy, wooden shacks, standing crooked, haphazard, peeling rows like a pile of matches. It's difficult to build, gather materials, do anything at all when you swelter all day under a rock or in a shack waiting for the midnight hours. The village burned, And then Grandma picked up bleach on the exodus, and soon everybody was gone, my father on his way. That day, after seeing the dead girl, I had collected enough gas and food to wait out the summer in the caves. They were damp, dripping places if you went down far enough. It stank of rotted bodies, those who had starved or gone, but it was cool. It was dark. It was safer than third-degree burns and snarling tumors all summer long. I remember I'd left it so late that I knew to stop driving and lie in the grass under the car. I usually passed out from the heat after an hour or so. When the sun was lower in the sky, orange and red, the sky green and pink, I poured water over myself, guzzled it through my cracked, bleeding lips. And then I drove, and I drove. I'd left it so late, so dangerously late, that towards the end of the journey they started appearing in the sky. Small, black dots at first, but they got bigger. They're ships, full of, I don't know, probably scientists in gray coats, watching, waiting for everything to die so they could start again. They're nothing but black pebbles in the sunset to me, and they disappear in the safety of the night. Black pebbles, no windows, no movement, no noise. They've no exhaust fumes, no visible sign of life. They just float calmly in the sky, black beads, watching as Earth eats itself like a coyote starving in the desert, picking at its own ribcage for morsels of its fleshy stomach. A stomach long gone. That little dead girl was a premonition, I suppose. It had been a silent, dissociative half-decade of white, silent heat. Each year dripped onto my lips like the last of the water in the hip flask I dangle now, as I speak, above my head. I should have been gone for the caves days ago. I stand on the roof of a gas station. It's midday. The sky is clear and gray. The yellow-brown plains sprawl outwards, forever on all sides. The highway cuts a black line down the middle. There's the occasional Lone Ranger, a telephone post in the distance, the hollow carcass of a tree. It's silent. So silent. Silence as deafening as a Red Sea, crashing down on my shoulders and burrowing into my dry, blistered throat. There's blood leaking from the blisters in my cheeks. It starts to boil slowly, etching teary burns down my chin, down my neck. I don't feel it. I don't feel anything. I'm a pair of eyes. I forgot the cave long ago. I've been waiting for this day. The last day of winter, the last wink. I hold my arms outstretched. From somewhere far away, much bluer and greener, much louder. If I squint, I can feel them burn like an old photograph on the campfire. The sensation starts to feel like rain, cold and relieving. I bleached myself intentionally. I went to one of the rotted bodies deep in the caves. A man. In the torchlight, his eyes were milky and half-closed, his mouth slack. There was a bottle of something that had rolled away from his right hand. There were foamy remnants on his lips. He reminded me of my little brother, Jeffrey. Maybe if he had grown up in the green and blue world, then he would have looked like that. I kissed his forehead. I began to forget not long after. It was sweet. It was like falling slowly asleep. From this nightmare. This fucking nightmare, I hear myself scream from far away, in the blue and green. I start to turn away now, as my legs begin to give out on the roof of the gas station. I can feel nothing holding out his hand. The blistered now is a universe away. Just before I turn and walk down the hill, the rain pouring onto my neck, blurring my vision into a sweet, comfortable gray, expansive, eternal gray. I see that little dead girl lying on the highway, sprawled out on the scorched earth. I smile as I slip away. I smile at her red, unblinking eyes, a wicked walk. Safety starts to feel like a myth when you're selling your body like it's a hanger for a clothing rack. This is me. Am I good enough for you? Are my legs thin enough? Or do they rub together too much when I walk? Do you like my eyes? My chin? Should I swing my hips or not? Do I have a boring face? An average body? I've even been told I was too pretty before. A pat on the hand, the way a child gets a bandage for a wound that nobody can see. Sorry, we're looking for uglier girls. You understand? No, I don't. The music is pumping in my ears so loudly I can't even hear my own footsteps or see the runway when I step onto it. I can feel it under my stilettos. That's all I have to go off of. I can feel the back of my dress is completely unzipped until about 3 seconds before I'm out there, bathed in neon purple light. Everything is distorted. I keep my gaze forward and focus on my hips, on my hands, on my steps, one foot in front of the other. A camera flashes somewhere, and everything is white for a fraction of a second. I blink, but my face doesn't move. The shoes are too small for me. I can already feel a blister forming. The music is so loud I can feel the bass rumble through my feet, vibrating through my body as I watch the model in front of me almost roll her ankle as she poses at the end. In my head I'm laughing, but on the outside I am poised, though admittedly I'm looking forward to hearing her get chewed out. Better her than me. I pose at the end, feeling every vein in my body shooting blood toward my heart, toward my brain, in time with whatever effervescent K-pop track this happens to be. It's in those 3 seconds that I stand there in front of everyone that I feel myself breathe, exhale. And then I'm holding my breath again, all the way until I'm behind the curtain. Backstage, everyone is running around. Girls cluster with stylists and makeup artists, their tits out, wearing nothing but a nude thong. You get used to this after a while. I too am out of my dress in a matter of seconds, disembodied hands moving over my form so quickly I don't even see who they belong to. Could be anyone. I realize as I'm looking around, I don't see the girl who almost tripped. She's nowhere to be found. That's impossible. She'd been right in front of me. Hairspray! Someone beside me yells, and then I'm bathed in that vaguely fruity aerosol scent, my ponytail getting re-slicked, while someone else is barking at me for my name. Nobody ever knows anybody's name around here. We're all just bodies. Sabrina, I'm saying, and even as it comes out of my own mouth, it sounds unfamiliar. Foreign. I don't remember the last time I said it. They usually just give you a number, throw you in a line. Sardines stuffed into a tin, wet and glittering and completely indistinguishable from one another. The man who was yelling for my name is now sifting through a rack of clothing, all covered with black garment bags. They're marked with our names. Someone beside the first man is picking off multiple hangers, his lips pursed. They all say Amber. I wonder idly if Amber is the one who tripped back there. The man carries off what would have been Amber's looks and tosses them into a garbage can. I furrow my brows gently. This was a more low-grade show, underground you might say. But I'd never seen anyone throw away a designer's pieces over a shitty runway walk. I don't have any more time to think about this before they're shoving me up onto the runway again, a new pair of ill-fitting shoes on me. I hadn't even realized someone had changed them. I walk, now in a pair of shorts and a crop top. All the designs are white, pristine looking. In the club lights they have going, we all sparkle like mirages of snow in a desert. Somehow, we all look fresh, clean, cool. Our hair is slicked, our makeup is bright and colorful. My eyeshadow is bright orange, my lips dressed in a plum sort of shade. The eyes that look on take us in with lips pressed flat, hands folded in laps. They watch us waiting for a mistake, waiting for another Amber, it was never about the clothes. You can always feel it, the way they're watching each step you take as you pass by among the string of girls. One after the other, they clench their hands together tighter, like they're praying we fall. But there's no God here, that I know. We hold ourselves up, or we drop. As I'm walking, the music changes to a song with more guitar, even louder and more suffocating than the last. Another noisy tune that I'd never heard before, something club-esque and punchy. My steps stay uniform, elegant, and strong. I have tunnel vision for the model's head in front of me, so much so that I almost trip on the body. Amber. She's laid over the runway with a slice in her neck so deep the smell of thick, hot metallic blood fills my nose as I step over her. I only glance at her for a moment. I keep walking. I keep walking as I'm thinking, is that fake blood? It can't be. The smell. And then the model behind me screams, a shriek that's barely audible over the sound of the music. Nobody in the audience shifts. They all just sit there, eyes forward, like mannequins. I dare to look down slightly again, and our heels are leaving behind trails of Amber's blood, the fluid glowing in the neon lights, contrasting the white we're all draped in. When I arrive backstage, the model who was screaming is being snatched from behind me, howling like an animal as multiple people keep her from running, caging her in. My heart is hammering in my chest as another pair of hands is undressing me again. I hear someone in my ear telling me how perfect I look out there, how I'm doing a flawless job. I don't say anything. I just flinch when I feel them running something wet all over me. I look down, and my bare chest is covered in red. It's still warm. Is it Amber's? I look over my shoulder, and the girl with the curly brown hair is being punched repeatedly in the stomach, crying out for help, reaching into the air toward where I'm standing. Nobody looks toward her, but me. I just look at her. I'm soaked in blood, the penny smell invading my nose so aggressively my stomach is curling in on itself. They don't even give me shoes, and then I'm up again, being shoved out of the curtain with nothing but my nude thong on, and whoever's blood smeared all over my sand-colored skin. Probably Amber's. For no reason at all, I walk. The music isn't even music anymore, it's just high-pitched buzzing. Nobody in the audience moves, but I do. I walk. I am the pillar holding all of this up. I am walking sex. I am red and beige and blonde. This is me. Am I hot enough yet? The blood is so hot. Do I look strong enough? Are my hips swaying properly? How are my eyes, my lips, my neck? Tell me I'm perfect. Nobody in the audience looks at Amber's body. Neither do I. Am I ugly enough yet? Yes. I walk, displaying her sacrifice on my skin, showing everyone what her sweat and tears couldn't keep inside her body. My steps get more and more confident as I step into the puddle again, the balls of my feet sticking to the runway as I leave new prints of red behind me. It doesn't hit me until I get to the end that I'm the only model out there, blood drying crusty onto my nipples, blood seeping into my underwear. When I pause at the end of the runway, there's another fluttering of camera flashes, much more explosive than before. White fills my vision, and then I'm turned around again, heading once more for that black curtain. The ringing in my ears is so loud. This is what they were waiting for. When I step behind the fabric, everyone backstage is facing me, as if they were waiting for me to finish. And then they clap, smiling superficially at me as I stand there, blood dripping down my thighs. The girl with the curly brown hair lays there against the wall with her ribs bashed in, her skull spilling out a red and gray mush that looks like discarded Jell-O salad. The other girls, Who knows where the hell they went? Better them than me, stalled. I'm not gonna take a dump in a public restroom. I'm not gonna take a dump in a public restroom. I'm not gonna... Damn it. I'm not gonna make it home. And it's right there. That grim, concrete bunker masquerading as a sanctuary of sanitation. Sickly 40-watt bulbs over twin entrances generating just enough illumination for the beast to be visible in the night. Barely there, beacons of hope guiding desperate travelers to safety. Or to ruin if they function for a siren. Which to me, they always have done. Late night, deserted park, squat building lurking like a gargoyle. Hard pass. I haven't avoided that place for 35 years, only to let it pounce now. I'll keep walking. It's only 15 minutes. I can hold it. I can make it. I can... Fuck. I can't believe this shit. Literally. I don't do public toilets. At school, at work, in restaurants, anywhere. My schedule has been refined over the years to ensure it's never a requirement. My plans are meticulous. My itinerary for every occasion is drafted around preparatory expulsions and drainage. The first 3 items on my agenda before any excursion are always be clean, be presentable, be empty, quickly followed by have phone charged, cash in wallet, and an escape plan, though these are secondary considerations. I can get away with screwing up on those. Bladder, too, can be humored if it refuses to comply, though with difficulty and potential for embarrassment. Empty bottles, vacant alleys. It can be done. Bowels can't. Not in any way, shape, or form. Don't even go there. And yeah, there have been close calls. Various delays have led to some near-catastrophic misses when my schedule got shredded by forces beyond my control. Like tonight. When I broke a golden rule by chatting longer to a Tinder match than I should have, missing the 10 o'clock bus. It was dumb, but things seemed to be going well, and I liked her. Could have predicted the "had a lovely evening but didn't feel a connection" text I received 10 minutes after saying goodnight and boarding the later bus. But I let my guard down because she played the part of interested well. My bad. I was kidding myself anyway. Not like it was going to last, even if we did decide to continue. It never does. I was already on dangerous ground at that point, but it would have been okay if not for the bus taking a meandering route through every unpronounceable village in the county and getting held up by roadworks at midnight. Okay, maybe it makes sense to re-tarmac roads when there's less traffic, but still, 30 minutes onto a 60-minute trip, and by the time I disembarked, my gut was groaning. Haven't been this close to the edge in decades. The pressure, the persistence, the pain. Stumbling along like a drunken gazelle, clenching my butt cheeks, trying to think happy thoughts. But I can't. Something's up in there. I can't hold it. Not for 15 minutes. Not for 15 seconds. It's coming out, and I have to go in. To the belly of the beast. To a urine-soaked germaphobe's nightmare. To that den of depravity, again after 35 years. FML. I bite the bullet and veer off the path, half running, half tiptoeing across a narrow strip of grass to the concrete slabbed perimeter around the monolith. It seems to inhale sharply, holding its breath as I approach, like a slumbering, concrete apparition, solidifying its presence in readiness for a reunion. I almost stutter to a halt as I reach the entrance with the faded male symbol on a scratched Perspex panel alongside. I haven't seen that up close since '89, and just being here now makes my stomach clench tighter than my ass. I want to turn, walk away, give up, and just shit my pants. But I can't let this haunt me forever. There has to be a time to face the past. That moment, apparently, is now, because my feet keep moving, and next thing I know, I'm inside, feeling like I'm 13 again. The smell hits me first, a mix of stale urine, bleach, and something rotten that almost resurrects the sushi I devoured 2 hours before. Until the familiar surroundings my eyes drift over, cause it to cower back down inside. I focus on the stalls at the back of this ceramic-tiled crypt. I keep my eyes forward, avoiding the cracked mirror over the grime-coated sink, the crude graffiti on the walls, the trio of yellowed urinals that leer as I pass, like dirty old men with pissed pants. Beneath my feet, crumpled tissue and puddles of stagnant liquid squish and splatter. Above me, fluorescent light tubes flicker and fizz. What am I doing here? I almost spin on my heels and head straight back out of this reeking vault, but my gut screams and the battering ram in my bowels launches a fresh attack, splintering the castle doors and poking through. I rush into a stall, not the one against the exterior wall, or the one in the center. The one to the right, I trust is safe. Just get it over with, I think, banging the metal door shut and sliding the lock. I undo my belt with one hand while curling the other inside the toilet dispenser to feel for a telltale sheet. Safe. But even if it was empty, there was no stopping this now. Button open, zip down, pants dropped. I turn and lower myself towards a broken seat, hoping to hover and not make full contact. But I have to abandon my revulsion and ideals of cleanliness as the castle gates buckle and the hounds of hell howl and thunder through. The missed bus, the delays on the road, the sushi that clearly wasn't good. A perfect shitstorm that created a perfect shitstorm, one that leaves me quivering and sweaty. 60 seconds later, I'm still here, trying to ignore my reality. The stink, the feel of the seat beneath my fully deposited ass, the creaks and buzzes and eerie, flickering emptiness of this alien landscape, one I never thought I'd visit again. But I did. I came back, and it didn't kill me or send me screaming into the deepest pits of despair. I sigh, feel myself relax, allow my eyes to slip open. No, it didn't kill me. But this wasn't the cubicle, where the nightmare occurred. That was 2 away, below the window, the one with the hole in the wall separating it from the middle stall. The hole plugged tight with tissue paper, like the one I see next to me now, as I turn to pull the flush handle. Was that there when I came in? How did I not notice? I took the time to check the dispenser. How could I have missed what was opposite? Was I that blinded by the urge to evacuate that I overlooked what's haunted me for decades? The hole in the cubicle wall with the scrunched up tissue securing it, keeping its purpose a secret until an unwitting victim comes along, innocently locking themselves into a vertical coffin, lowering a protective barrier of clothing, exposing themselves to the evil forces lurking on the other side of a flimsy plywood panel. A patient predator that chooses its prey wisely. The young, the vulnerable, the meek, sitting there and festering in the middle stall of 3, biding his time until an opportune moment arises and the trap can be sprung, until the plug can be removed, clearing a roughly carved 3-inch diameter passage between the domains of decency, like it was 35 years ago. And is again now. I can't move. I can only sit, trousers around ankles, ass glued to the seat, beads of sweat on my brow as I shock see the ball of tissue vanish. Hear shuffling, furtive sounds from the neighboring cubicle as the sound of the flushing water fades. Observe a flicker of movement in the darkness beyond the hole. And then, with a hiss, something shiny and serpentine slides through. A snake with glistening scales slithers an inch into my stall, then another, Its body flexes and sways. It tastes the air in my direction with a forked tongue. My breath catches as it stretches closer. Its tongue gleams. Its fangs drip venom. Its empty eyes stare into my soul. How is this happening? How can there be a snake? I want to shout, stand, run, but I'm frozen to the spot. I'm afraid a noise will make it angry. I'm afraid a movement will make it strike. I'm just me, here, alone, with no one to help me. I have to be still. I have to be silent. If I just keep quiet, it might not hurt me. If I let it do what it wants, it might leave me alone. Just let it do what it wants. Number. Its eyes entrance me, drawing me deeper. Its undulating body hypnotizes. It knows me in a way I thought I'd forgotten, and it thinks it can use that against me. Fear-infused silence presses down on me, filling the air with the same quiet dread I remember, but I'm not going to sit here and take it. Not this time. I'm not a kid, cowering against a dirty cubicle wall. I'm a grown man, and I don't have to let that thing touch me. I'm not going to let it attack. I twist, grab the cistern lid, faster than I should, but I don't care. Bite me if you want, I think, lifting the heavy porcelain. Bite me, and this time, I'll bite back. I don't have to. The snake is frozen, unmoving, beady eyes analyzing my every move as I break its spell. Fuck off, I shout, and slam the cistern lid against the wall, forcing the stalking serpent to retreat. This can't really be happening, I know that, deep down. This is some kind of trauma response, brought on by my return to this lair after so many years. This place where evil may still lurk. This place that should not be standing. The snake is gone, but the hole remains, and I don't want to see what comes next. I lower the cistern lid, drop it to the floor where it clatters, stand to yank up my trousers. There's paper in the dispenser, but I forego it. I just want out, no time to waste. So I reach for the door as I tug up my zipper. 15 minutes to home, 10 if I run. Then I can strip and shower and wash away the filth and putrid memories. My fingertips graze the metal latch. Open the door. A whisper, thin as smoke, stops me dead. I freeze, chest tightening, mind racing. The fluorescent light tubes flicker faster, their buzz an electric hum, like a warning. Did I hear that? Did I imagine it? Was it just another echo from the past? Hurry, let me in. That voice again, insistent, forceful, like a hand around my throat exerting pressure. A voice of authority, the kind that requires you to obey. I shrink back, swallow a lump, both hands fumbling with my belt, drawing the strap so tight it digs into my skin. It sounds the same. It sounds like him, but it can't be. Can it? 35 years later, is he still here? Doing the same thing to innocent children? Open the door. It's a command now, dominating, urgent. The door rattles in its frame and I squeeze my eyes shut. Impossible. He'd be 60, more. He can't still be here. I haven't seen him around town, not since Deborah left, and I moved back home to face my demons. And how is that working out? My eyes snap open. Anger, no, annoyance, replacing the fear in my chest. I take a deep breath and speak out. Who's there? The sound of my adult voice once again shatters the illusion. The lights aren't panicking. The door isn't shaking. The ghost repeating old words has fallen silent. Fuck this. I step forward, take hold of the latch, ready to face what awaits. If there is someone there, if it is him or someone like him, this time I will take a stand. I'm not a victim. I don't have to comply. I don't have to bite my tongue or keep a secret. I'm not afraid to confront a monster, not anymore, because the monster was always just a bully and a creep. A well-groomed reptile in a top-tier suit and fancy shoes, wearing the face of a paragon of virtue. A fake smiling avatar whose insides were rotten to the core. A symbiote who managed to hide his... Before I slide the latch and open the door, something shifts below and I look down. Twisting into the stall, in the space between door and floor, is a mass of writhing tentacles, weaving and winding through the piss and grot coating the tiles. I stagger back, bump against the toilet bowl, watch the gray appendages approach, twisting around each other like a mass of limbs, reaching out to coil around my ankles. I lift one foot, then the other, hurriedly climb onto the toilet, clutching the top of the stall as the tentacles roll closer. They spread across the floor, curl around the base of the toilet, start to undulate upwards, seeking me out. This can't be happening. I know it's not. It's not. Get away! I shout, my voice bouncing off the tiles. You're not real! But as the words echo, a voice outside the stall whispers back. Not the same as before, but just as familiar. It's real, it says, a warm voice, comforting and gentle. I feel it before I recognize it, like a ghost caressing my cheek. Melissa? It was always real, but you tried to bury it, and it made you close yourself off to the world. I can't breathe. My eyes dart to the stall door, desperate to see if she's on the other side. The door starts to rattle again. The owner of the tentacles, still attempting to get in. I look down to see them curl over the rim of the toilet and brush against my feet. Another voice pipes up from beyond the door, stronger, resentful. You gave him all this power, Brooke accuses, forward as ever. You wouldn't name him, wouldn't tell, not even your mother, who was waiting outside when it happened. You took on that shame and let it destroy you. No, I whisper. Stop. This isn't fair. I just wanted to go to the bathroom. I didn't expect anything else. Tears fill my eyes as the tentacles reach my ankles and slip inside my trouser legs. A third voice, Caroline's my love, enters the void. You wouldn't talk to anyone. You kept it in, let it eat you alive and push me away. Her voice, like the others, stabs my heart and I tremble, blink, try to push it back in time where it belongs. Why am I hearing all this? None of it was my fault. I'm not the reason things never worked out. He is. That man. That perfect, upright citizen the town adored. The educator, the counselor, the patron of the arts and local charities. The polished liar hiding behind crumpled tissue and scrawled numbers on bathroom stall walls. He did this. And what are you going to do about it? That same low voice returns, snapping me back to attention. You think you can keep me out? Locked door or not, I'm coming in. I jolt as something slams against the door, and a length of garden hose slaps over the top, thick and black, swaying as if it's alive. From its winking nozzle, a single drop of viscous liquid falls. I flinch, know what's coming. I reach out to grab it and aim it away, but the tip of the hose erupts quickly, spewing thick, tar-like goo over my face. I squeeze my eyes shut, grip the hose with both hands, howl as the ooze fills my mouth. Good boy. The voice chuckles, and I see red. Number I'm fucking not. I squeeze, throttle, pull on the now fleshy hose, feeling it wriggle and writhe warmly in my grasp. Let go! The man outside the stall shouts, trying to reel it back in. That hurts! Stop! Let go! I'm not your good boy. I hiss through clenched, grinding teeth. But okay, I will. I'll let go." I gave the thick hose one last yank, and the man howls in pain as it snaps, tumbles into the stall, drops loose and limply to the floor. The invading gray tentacles slip from my legs and shrink back, shriveling up as they dissolve, taking the hose and its dirty ooze with them, drawing the nightmare away. I blink, and everything is gone. My face is dry. The hole in the wall is no longer. The only sounds to be heard are the hum of the light tubes and the desperate, panicked pounding of my heart. I dismount from the toilet, reach for the latch, release it, and push open the door. The restroom is empty. I stumble out into the night, the fresh air welcome as I catch my breath. My phone feels cold in my hand as I remove it from an inside jacket pocket. It's late, but I know she'll be awake. Even if she's not, it doesn't matter. I hold the phone to my ear as I walk, wait until I hear her surprised voice. "Mom," I say, voice breaking. "There's something I have to tell you." The words tumble out, and with them, years of silence as tears flow freely down my face. Bob Barker and the price of cookies. If Bob Barker was dead, he apparently was making the most of it. Bev checked the date on the magazine, guessing this bundle of BLTNs had gathered dust on some post office loading dock until some chuckle-headed awoke from their civil service coma. November 2024. She angrily brushed the white hair from her eyes as the early November winds buffeted the mailbox bank, then located the mailing label that cheapened the high-tone, heavy matte cover. Bev's old stylist had been a pretentious little bee with a stack of thick, chic, hoity town and countries in the waiting area, hoping to attract a classier clientele to her shitty little dump of a shop next to the campus Domino's that smelled perpetually of pepperoni and perms. Upshot was, somebody was going to have to get their hot goss at the Gas End Gulp or the Great Clips like a normal peon this month. Thanks. Beverly L. Tryon, 107 Oakline Drive, Millington, Illinois. Bev blinked and re-examined the other two cover boys. She was pretty sure Jimmy Buffett had sailed off into the sunset not too far back. Her hairball ex would have held a 3-day wake for the man if he hadn't already cracked his parrot head 3 Februaries back on his way from the VFW to the Moose after the last of the vets cut him off. The Legion already had turned off the spigot, and Lend canned the VA shrink halfway into intake, opting instead for his former wife's counsel to grow a set and just get over yourself. The third didn't ring a bell with Bev. Dimly familiar old black guy who sported at least a 5-pack, and who might have been handsome if, well, you know. Whoever he was jamming out on some unnaturally white beach with the purportedly late Price is Right host and the patron saint of every midlife mess who'd ever dropped the mortgage on a PT Cruiser. By the way, apparently not J.D. Power's top pick for surviving a collision with anything much larger than a pop-top. She read on. Come on down. The 3Bs rock their second anniversary with Rita's and Rhythm in Paradise. Bob Barker raises the curtain on his mega canine rescue and personal crusade against poverty, while Jimmy Buffett and Harry Belafonte share their greatest hit island recipes, including the greatest cheeseburger this side of paradise. Bev frowned as a dead maple cottonwood cyclone teased her varicose ankles. She didn't care for Bob's new tarnished silver mane, and the alto sax was certainly a new one on her. Buffett wailed on his Martin guitar, part of a treasury of parrot head trivia she'd inherited along with the deed to a charred cube of Cruiser. Belafonte she now recalled from the piece-of-shit Beetlejuice movie her daughter had dragged her to after the divorce. Only good part of the idiotic, blasphemous thing, though now she recalled that when he wasn't slapping the bongos, Harry was a major troublemaker One of those. I thought he was dead. Bev heard her own cervical pop as she whipped irritably around to find 109 craning over her shoulder. Though she'd ascertained ownership, Bev hugged the slippery magazine protectively to her chest. If I could just... The maddeningly tall old busybody next door mumbled as she attempted to reach around Bev's compact girth. Bev leapt back, and the amazing 6-foot woman scooped an impossible stack of catalogs and political flyers from inside her narrow Ace Hardware box. Bev suspected she was a libtard. She kept a patch of weeds and hay between their houses with a sign about how she was a friend of the butterflies. The city wouldn't do anything about it. Must be some kind of marketing campaign, 109 chirped, extracting her own sleek BLTN from the pile. What do you think that stands for? Probably like AARP, but I got that Saturday. Huh, addressed to me. Weird. Maybe the O people sold my name to a mailing list. Bev's jaw tightened. Her neighbor tapped her ET forefinger on the mailing label. See that in the corner? 1/7. 7 freebies to lure us in, then the sales pitch. God, I thought Belafonte was dead. You know, my mom actually met him during one of Dr. King's marches. I'm freezing my ass off. Later. Bev grunted, scuttling across the street, narrowly averting a Domino's driver who apparently thought 30 minutes or it's free was a personal code rather than a desperate marketing plea. The card floated to the olive shag as she slammed the front door shut against 109 and the others, those who'd wormed into the downtown fringe with their hippie gardens and rainbow flags and black Antifa Lives Matter and socialist blue yard signs as her neighbors cashed in one by one. Steadying herself on the doorframe, Bev bent painfully to scrape the cream-colored card from the filth and fibers. This subscription is a very special gift from Aileen. We hope you'll enjoy our thoughtfully curated articles, Bev snorted, and that truly BLTN enriches your understanding and perhaps even your life. With love, Aileen. Christ, Bev breathed, dropping into the threadbare Thomas recliner Len had neglected to include in the prenup. Aileen. There was a cousin Eileen on Dad's side, and 2 Count-'em Ellens. One a little cunt on the Millington High cheer squad who'd made her senior year a nightmare. The other a bigger cunt of a cousin on Len's roster who she hadn't seen since her ex's 40th. Bev studied the 4x6, logo-embossed card. She realized the signature was handwritten. That itself seemed hinky. The magazine had slipped between cushion and arm, and Bev cursed as she worked it free and flipped open the stiff cover. Barker stood, arms crossed, in an improbably green field under an impossibly blue sky, surrounded by seemingly thousands of people each holding a dog. Every color and size, humans and canines, and breeds Bev had never seen in her 30-mile radius of a life, or that show with that scrawny little Mexican Cesar Milano whatever. All dogs go to heaven, but Bob Barker wants all transcendents to have a forever home too. See page 10. As Bev polished off her Marie Callender's meal to share Italiano meat lasagna with a dessert combo of Barker and Buffett, she was certain she'd been scammed on some elaborate and epic level. The old bait and switch, Len would have called it, probably. What was the phrase? Catfishing her for her Discovery card information, or Social Security. Bev's old pal, Wikipedia, had confirmed Barker had died in August 2023, 1 cent short of 100 of the Alzheimer's. Unless they'd discovered some miracle cure for dementia and rigor mortis, Bev suspected somebody with a computer had deep-faked up the entire photo spread like they had at the Capitol back in 2021. Buffett had nibbled his last sponge cake about a month after Barker'd cashed in, and Belafonte's ticker'd kicked out in April the same year. Bev read on, forsaking NCIS and then NCIS and so on, to peruse Kirstie Alley and Olivia Newton-John's favorite John Travolta films, not what you'd think. Latenu Hura Lady's new stage production of something called A Raisin in the Sun, and a selection of Tom Clancy's latest poetry. The new Harper Lee and Raymond Chandler novels were coming out, and Roger Ebert reviewed Robin Williams' upcoming comedy. Throughout were more references to transcendence, something called shepherding that appeared to be some kind of Big Brothers, Big Sisters deal for adults, and other weirdo jargon with a Scientology-type vibe. By 10:30, Bev had bypassed the crossword for a last-page nightcap called BLTN Bites. At first, she recognized none of the 8 mugshots lined up along the bottom of the inside back page, and she fumbled her Walgreens cheaters on to see just what this shit was all about. I'd sacrificed my creativity for what I thought were family responsibilities when I actually had surrendered what I loved for family expectations. Now, I sacrifice nothing. Tina H. Shepherding has opened the doors that kept me in darkness as a husband and father. Sergio F. As I help heal tortured and guilty souls, the cries of the camps finally have begun to fade. Gerhard W. I'd tried to treat my wartime nightmares with liquor and marriage, except I was only chasing poison with poison and a toxic relationship. Leonard T. Bev paused at that last, scrutinized the accompanying thumbnail, a beaming, tanned, mustached man who appeared to have lost a good 40 pounds and a network of broken capillaries. Len seemed to be smiling up at her, not in contempt but with an infuriatingly pitying joy. Bev frisbeed the magazine across the living room. The second edition was in the mailbox Friday, slumming with the Miles Kimball / Harriet Carter catalogs and Subway and Arby's coupons. Doris Day, Grace Kelly, Janet Leigh, and big-boobed Kim Novak adorned the cover this time, sharing a jumbo bucket of popcorn under a theater screen filled with a doughy, inscrutable face. "We too!" the blood-red headline screamed. Hitchcock's blondes talk Weinstein, micro and macro aggressions, and traps and tips for tomorrow's Hollywood to-be-eyes. Bev's faintly glaucomic eyes did a full loop as she wondered what in the fuck a to-be was, and she turned from the trio of mailboxes before glancing about the dead, gray block and sneaking a peek inside 109. Beef and cheese and teriyaki chicken, Harry and David and Land's End catalogs, and 109's own copy of BLTN. Bev started toward 108's box, but a chipper voice shattered the frigid November air, and she tasted copper. "We have to quit meeting like this," 109 murmured, with a theatrically arched eyebrow, towering entirely too closely. "Oh, it's here. I was hoping. This would have been perfect for Thursday chemo." The WNBA's eldest draft pick looked more Panera's or Whole Foods than Arby's or Subway, pale and knobby and the color of chicken skin. "Shoot, I was hoping maybe you'd want mine," Bev lied, waving the glossy magazine. "You don't like it?" Uzdokas gasped. "I find it so affirming. You know everybody in there's dead, right?" "Everybody," Bev echoed. "Sick. I mean, what's the deal? Is this some kind of, what do they call it, cyber scam?" They don't have a website, I checked, so not really cyber. And if this is a scam, it's an awful expensive one, don't you think? Did you notice there are no ads, no information about subscribing? How do they pay for this whole production? You know what I think maybe this is about? Second chances, better choices, leaving regrets behind. You know what performance art is, right? I think maybe this is like performance journalism. Bev remembered how good fucking Len looked, considering his past stint as 240 pounds of flame-broiled road chuck. "I think you're batshit crazy," she snapped, struggling across the street with her slippery bundle with as much dignity as she could attempt to muster. Back in the cost-efficient, 60-degree comfort of her living room, Bev ripped through the December BLTN, scanning the names and faces of the dead. Cronkite, Winehouse, Plath, Walters, Shakur, Bogart, Cobain, Dr. King, Mr. Spock, the famous dead Kennedys building homes with Eisenhower, Johnson, Nixon, and a lanky and badly styled goateed fellow who, if Mrs. Werschnick's 5th grade history served her, had taken one in the balcony 40 and some odd more ago. This time, Bev snatched the card mid-flight, a gift from Aileen. Just between us. Aileen. The tone was indefinable, the silence that followed arctic. Bev stumbled backward against the recliner's arm. Nat, do you know any Aileen? Wasn't there an aunt on your dad's side? You never listened. Bev's daughter sounded a decade older, though it had been a little less than 3 years since they'd last exchanged a spoken word. What? You never listened. You couldn't hear anything through your anger and hate. You wouldn't hear anything. God Natalie's voice broke into harsh, strained sobs. The hell are you babbling about? Bev snapped even as her fingers trembled around the smartphone. Of course, it was us too. We wouldn't hear it. Him. Her. Oh, fuck. We thought we were the victims. We were the ones in pain. But you. Fucking you. Bev was now holding the phone in both hands, perched on the Thomas's arm as if suspended over infinite space. I'm not sitting here while you fucking cuss me out. You called me, Nat shrieked, gasping and now laughing murderously. After all this time, you called me to remind me what a poisonous, soulless, hateful old cunt you are. Well, her daughter panted. Well, I guess better late than never. Right? Right? The phone slipped from Bev's arthritic fingers as she fell back into the cushion, veined legs kicking, folded and trapped on her back like a tortoise wearing its carapace beneath the skin. Nat's unearthly rage and madness crackled somewhere in the deep green pile below, a blaze her mother was powerless to extinguish. Just between us. Before the evil took hold of him, it was their little joke. One more thumbprint cookie, an extra slice of Kroger cake or Baker's Square French silk before Mom scooped him up for supper. A reminiscence or chuckle her woke daughter would never have tolerated. We'll keep this our little secret, just between us. When Aiden finally confided in Grandma, he'd turned it against her, and she wasn't going to be extorted by a spoiled, sick 13-year-old. After it all began, after Aiden began spewing insanity, his vile inner thoughts and whinings, after the wheedling and fits and the pervert libtard shrink, and the constant trips to Chicago, and the financial realizations that threatened Paula's college, and the public displays and declarations, and finally the family's exile from holidays and even communications, the cookies and cake and the secrets had halted. When Bev herself banned the boy from her home, spitting his adopted pronouns back in his face, he'd called blubbering from one of his freak friends' phones to keep her from immediately ghosting him. He was alone. Dad would no longer speak to him. Mom had told him he was a selfish brat who'd made them outcasts. Aunt Nina told Mom, on speaker no less, that she couldn't have the girls exposed to such depravity, and the church in which Nat, Paula, and Aiden all had been christened had written to revoke God's blessing on the deity's behalf. Grandma, just between us, I kind of feel more and more like just killing myself. Bev also had received a Dear John, Luke, Matthew, Mark from the Second Millington Church of Jesus, though not from quite so far up the chain and merely punching her ticket to Tuesday night prayer and gossip and the coveted holiday potluck chairmanship. It had been months since Nat had so much as dropped her a check-in text, and the atmosphere at the Catholics' Thursday public bingo had dropped 20 or 30 degrees since Aiden's, parentally, unauthorized interview on the local AM morning show. Well, Bev had reflected, calmly, tonelessly, better late than never. Oh, of course, she couldn't blame herself. Like the literal drama queen Aiden had become demanding his true self, he didn't have, nor, as Bev had quipped, any longer had the stones to face the humiliation he brought down on his family, on his grandma. She had nothing to torture herself over. That was on the man with the swastika and Jesus tattoos who'd unloaded 7 slugs into the creature who was once her little guy in a Peoria LGBTQ health center lot to the tune of Genesis 1:27. Number it was the betrayal. Bev raged as she thrashed ineffectually to free herself from this final, posthumous revenge, the effort sending jolts of pain up her left arm. He'd broken their pact, the little bastard. Or bitch. Finally, a young feminine voice pierced the growing fog. Bev blinked up at a figure perhaps not as lovely as Aiden had been handsome, but somehow far stronger. Better late than never, I guess. Miss? She'd been halfway down 107's weedy walk when she turned beaming to the gaunt, middle-aged woman gripping the porch rail next door, as if she were awaiting the first life raft. The long, frail neighbor woman was smiling uncertainly back, apologetic concern in her deeply sunken eyes. "Hello," the girl greeted in a rather low but somehow comforting tone. Instead of holding her stance in annoyed indecision or briskly crossing the scrubby turf between them to expedite the encounter, the young woman continued down the walk and took the sidewalk to 109. On closer examination, she was what some might call homely, slender but big-boned, crisp blue eyes, set perhaps a centimeter too far apart for standard, conformist beauty. But she moved with what Kelly's own mother might have called bearing, a confidence in who and what she was, and that whatever that was just, well, right. The girl waited at the bottom of the steps, inviting, inquiring, neither expectant nor demanding. "I didn't mean to disrupt your day," Kelly said. "I thought I might have heard something from, Beverly's a minute ago, and I just wanted to know everything was all right." "It is," the young woman smiled brightly. "So you're not... I'd understood she had a grandson." She did. "And please don't be sorry. I was coming to see you next. You've received your complimentary BLTN, Mrs. Grambling?" Kelly's head tilted before the smile returned. "Well, yes, though I'd have to say I'm at a bit of a loss as to what exactly it is I'm reading. Full disclosure, I'm in no position for long-term subscriptions." The girl looked to the sky with a grin. "I guess, if I had to say, we're about second chances, better choices, leaving all regrets behind. Options. I'm kinda out of those." Kelly sighed. "Mrs. Grambling, do you have a minute to discuss options?" "I guess I have that. And please, Kelly..." "Aileen, the Black House. Oh, how I love the Black House. It captivates me. Fun and debauchery abound, a den of indulgence and excitement. Every Friday I find myself drawn here, and my dastardly actions always go unheeded until I have had my fun and I'm well gone. Then there is all hell to pay. I have left chaos in my wake. I am nestled as usual in a secluded corner, my little nook, where I secrete myself with a book until an interesting or exotic bird of the female persuasion catches my eye. I never actually read the book, but I find if you frequent any bar book in hand, you can enjoy a reasonable amount of time in relative peace, except for a few snorts of derision now and again. They just assume you are nerdy and have no social skills. But little do they know that I possess both a passion for literature and the ability to engage when I can be bothered. The desire rarely crops up. I plan to accumulate a choice of whiskeys, so I can survey my prey without showing my hand too early, and I can surreptitiously survey the room. The bartender is used to my appearance, so doesn't flinch at my pale skin anymore, and is happy with my custom, as the whiskeys don't come cheap here. He doesn't even attempt the petty small talk, just takes my money and nods. We have a little arrangement, a mutual understanding, where if I identify something or someone of interest, I let him know, and he, in turn, lets me know what the object of my desire's chosen tipple is, and he shares with me the preferred drink of my target. I often wonder if he knows exactly what I am up to, but if so, he never lets on. If I just wanted sex, engaging solely in sexual encounters, it would be so much easier, as that's what a lot of people come here for. However, I have a distinct craving for blood, its pulsating, pumping, flowing essence. The exhibitionist in me needs the little scare that this time I just might be caught. Ah, the extra thrill of fellow drinkers breezing by as I indulge my taste buds. I have been known to get too excited and must retire to my little nook to remove the skin from my fangs to ensure they are still in pristine condition and replace their covering veneers. No, before you ask, I am not a vampire. I paid a fortune in dental work to get my fangs, to achieve my desired appearance. I will not die if I don't get to satisfy my cravings, merely languish and fester in boredom and misery. Ah, there she is, an interesting, nice, and petite woman. I used to believe that bigger women, big-boned girls, that their size would enhance flavor, make it meatier and tangier, but I was mistaken. All that excess fat and flavor only gets in the way of the pure delight of the blood. I tend not to waste my time, so I catch the bartender's attention to make sure he is aware of what she is drinking. How ironic that she's having a Bloody Mary, a drink I love. I gesture for the bartender to pour me a double Bloody Mary, and it's sent over. I pop in my little pill, and am ready to go. It simply makes them a bit drowsy. I'm not doing any harm, but they never have the will or energy after partaking to stop my suckling, ensuring they will not resist my advances. They'll explain away and rationalize any marks or cuts in the morning, thinking the sex got a wee bit energetic and will be too ashamed to mention to anyone a one-night stand, or as I find it much nicer to say, a fleeting romance. She gracefully and gratefully accepts my offering, and together we retreat to my secluded spot. The bite she inflicts on my neck and the lump she takes out of it is sure to leave a lasting mark that will undoubtedly become a permanent scar. The intensity of her sinking her teeth into my neck excruciating, and those fangs are absolutely real. It's impossible to deny their authenticity. As I let out a terrified yelp, the bartender, seemingly amused by my distress, adds a small pill to my whiskey as a gesture of kindness, although I can't help but feel unworthy of such mercy after what I did to his niece on his night off. I never intended to cause real harm. Unbeknownst to me, I inadvertently ended her life, mistaking her stillness being from the effect of the pill, like countless others I had met before. Now, her lifeless body lies in the cold, unforgiving, and unyielding morgue. The specter of revenge, as always, is on the menu and lingers, hanging heavily in the atmosphere and air of the black house. I can feel my inert and lifeless body being lifted and thrown onto a cart. I am fully aware that my ultimate fate lies within the morgue. I find myself positioned next to the bartender's niece, and apart from the marks and bruises on her neck, she retains a certain beauty. I almost feel like partaking of her juices again and indulging in her essence once more. However, I suspect that her vitality has long since faded. making my lifeless form incapable of deriving any pleasure from it. I had hoped that my assailant might leave me to wander the earth forever, more with real fangs this time. But not a chance. I wasn't that fortunate. She decided to finish me off and bring my existence to a permanent close. I find it perplexing that the bartender's niece, whose name I need to inquire about, is smiling at me, despite being in a similarly unfortunate situation, albeit appearing far more attractive. Are we destined to spend time in the afterlife together forevermore? I burst into laughter when I muster the courage to ask the question, and she responds, "Mary, my name is Mary, insatiable darkness. Not the kind that comes when you close your eyes. This is something else, heavy, dense, like the world's been erased. It's pressing down, sinking through me. I can't breathe, can I? My chest should be moving, doing something. I don't know why I expect that. Then something else. A noise. No, not a noise. A memory. I love you, babe." A woman's voice, warm, laughing. I can almost feel her next to me, see her face, smell her perfume, something like freshly peeled oranges. Gone. Just like that. I try to hold on to it, but it slips away like smoke. Something aches where the memory was, filling empty spaces, like something lost. Am I lost? No, I'm here. Here in the dark, here in the earth pressing in on all sides. It is cold, deep in my bones, in my flesh. No, it's wrong. I feel something slipping, a part of myself loosening, unraveling, sinking into the dark. I try to reach for it, to grab hold of me, but it's fading fast, sinking below the surface like a drowning man. I tell myself, I'm still here, I'm still someone, but it feels like a lie. Why can't I move? I try to lift an arm, a hand, anything, but everything's sluggish. My fingers claw at nothing, something below, above, heavy, settled. I should be moving, I should be. Then it hits me, clear and sharp, like a broken bone. I'm dead. I'm dead. I don't breathe. My chest is still cold, rotting. A surge of panic hits, a sensation I didn't know I could still feel. I close my eyes, or maybe they were already closed, and try to piece together bits of memory clinging to me. A bright day, a laughing face, a small sticky hand in mine. Gone. Gone before I can feel it. The weight around me presses harder like the ground itself is claiming me, holding me down. I don't know how I know, but I know I shouldn't be here. Shouldn't be this. I should be someone else. Happy birthday. Her voice echoed through me, through the dark. I don't know who she is, but the words cut through me, raw. I remember her laughing, brushing a stray hair behind her ear, her eyes catching the light in that way that always made me stop and stare. She'd squeeze my hand and whisper, "You're my forever." The words are faint now, slipping away, but the warmth of them lingers enough to hurt. I claw at the darkness. I don't mean to. I don't have to. My fingers curl through the dirt, tearing, dragging myself upward. My hands pull, dig, until I feel the damp, cold earth under my nails, grinding against bone. The part of me that still thinks cringes. The other part? It just keeps going. It's like I'm watching from far away, a thought pulsing through my mind. Get out. Get out. Not a choice, an order I can't ignore, from deep inside, where the human parts of me are fading fast. I don't know how long I claw, but the earth loosens above me, cold air seeping in, something other than the dirt. It's thin, stale, the first taste of the world outside, and it makes me feel Alive. Alive and wrong. My head breaks the surface, and the night air hits me, sharp. I gasp, but the air scrapes through me like glass. The world is blurry, washed out under the moonlight. Grave markers surround me, jagged teeth against the sky. This is where I came from, where they buried me. I'm a corpse, crawling out of my own grave. The thought jolts, but it's distant, almost faint, like something I heard once and already forgot. Then that hunger, the one buried under memories, under voices, stirs, an ache deep in what's left of me, stronger than anything else. I push forward, not thinking, just moving, pulled by instinct, by the urge rising, undeniable. I'm dead. I'm broken. But I need something. I can't stop. I can't go back. The first thing I see, really see, under the sickly cast of the moon, is my hand, if you can call it that. It's a mess of sagging skin stretched over bone, torn in places, bits of muscle clinging to knobby joints, fingers twisted and rigid, blackened nails caked with dirt and something else I don't want to name. The sight, this thing I'm looking at, moving like it's mine, hits me like an electric shock, horror rushing up, strangling me. God, what am I? I try to scream, but all that comes out is a sound, low, guttural, inhuman, like an animal caught in a trap. My hand, my arm. No, this isn't my body. It can't be. The skin hangs in loose, rotting patches where it's not already gone, exposing sinew and yellowed bone. I look down and see my clothes, shredded, filthy, stained with patches that could only be. I shut down the thought, but the nausea twists inside me, pulling me toward something deeper. And then, as the horror swells, something else creeps in. It starts as a twitch, a need, deep and feral, like a slow burn crawling from my center outward. It coils in my stomach, my muscles, my bones, driving out everything else. A hunger, sharp, jagged, specific. I don't just want food. I want something else. Something alive. Number no, don't think it. Don't even say it. You don't want this. But I do. It's already there, growing, swelling, filling the hollow spaces inside until there's nothing left but the hunger. I try to push it down, to hold it back, but it's like caging fire. It flares, a force driving me to move, to push one unsteady, broken foot in front of the other, leaving damp streaks of earth where I walk. Ahead, movement, shadows, soft and slow. A person, bundled in a coat, walking the edge of the graveyard, flashlight in hand. I want to warn them, tell them to turn around, to run. Stop! But my body doesn't listen. I lurch forward. I'm watching, screaming inside, but I'm just a passenger, shackled here, while something else, some twisted, primal urge, takes the reins. My mouth opens, something wet and rotten drips down my chin, spilling onto torn clothes. But I can't stop. I'm close enough now to see him clearly, middle-aged, a little tired, maybe a little sad. He notices me, stops, frowning. Are you okay? His voice shakes, holding the flashlight up, illuminating my face. The light hits his eyes, wide with shock, as he takes in my face. His jaw drops, his lips tremble. Oh, my God! Run! I want to scream. Run! But my mouth twists, letting out a moan, low and ragged, and it's enough to send him stumbling back, breath hitching in fear. He turns, but it's too late. My body surges forward, faster than I should be able to move, faster than anything this decayed body should manage. I catch him from behind, fingers sinking into his shoulders. I feel his body seize, the heat of him, the life. The hunger digs deeper, takes control of my hands, my teeth, drive into him, tearing at flesh like it's some kind of drug, some twisted ecstasy. He screams, his voice cutting through the night, but my body just keeps going. My teeth sink into his shoulder, the taste that hits my tongue. It's warm, alive. It fills me in a way nothing else can, something thick and metallic spilling down my throat, coating my mouth, and there's a sick satisfaction that follows, a relief even, like I've finally given in to something I didn't know I wanted. Stop. Please. God, just stop. But there's no stopping. My mouth pulls back, jaws snapping down, over and over, feeling skin and muscle tear, tasting the salt and the heat of his blood. His body twists, weak hands pounding against me, scratching, fighting. But his voice is breaking, giving way to soft, strangled cries. It's him and me, my body devouring his, my mind screaming in silent horror, torn between the repulsion and the craving, both so strong I don't know where one ends and the other begins. I taste his life fading, bit by bit, until he stops moving, limp beneath me. My hands fall to my sides, and I'm left there, panting, mouth and hands covered in his blood, insides roiling with satisfaction and disgust. The hunger settles, just a little, but doesn't go away. It sits there, dark, waiting. I know it'll be back. I look down at what's left of him, the bloodied mess that used to be a person. Pieces of him are scattered around me, stained on my clothes, smeared on my hands, and I feel nothing. Not horror, not revulsion, just emptiness. Number. That's not right. There's something else, something worse. I feel good, sated. A part of me is horrified by this, revolted. But that part feels so far away, drowned by the darkness. The hunger whispering again, like an old friend, like a promise. I don't know what I am anymore, but I know what I'll do. When the hunger comes back, I'll follow. There's blood on my hands, dark, drying, almost black in the moonlight. It stains the shredded skin, sinking into the folds and cracks as if it belongs there. I stare, feeling nothing, but then a name surfaces in my mind, just a whisper that strikes like lightning. Emily. It hangs there, echoing in the dark. A face appears, flickers, blurs, her eyes dark and warm, framed by wavy brown hair. I almost feel her, the laugh that carries through time. She's saying something to me, but her voice is faint as if drowned. I love you. The statement hits me, and with it, shame, thick and heavy, curling around the hunger. And there's a weight pressing on my chest, suffocating, even though I know I can't breathe. Guilt claws through the numbness, pulling her words up from wherever I tried to bury them. But it's gone, leaving only emptiness. My head pounds, trying to piece together fragments of who I was. The flashes come and go, sharper, harder to bear. The kitchen table, a family dinner, laughter, the smell of coffee, her voice as she hums, my wife, her hand on my face, the love so clear I could cry. Then it's gone, and I'm left alone in silence. The hunger stirs again, gnawing through the warmth of memory. Another face flickers into view. A child, a little girl, with a gap-toothed smile, clutching a worn teddy bear, her eyes full of trust. My daughter. I'm holding her hand somewhere bright, laughter filling the air. She'd giggle, squeezing my hand, saying, "Daddy, let's do this forever." And I'd smile, say, "Forever, baby." I feel it, warmth in my chest, something close to happiness, something I can almost touch. The thought stabs through, sharp and real, and the pain that follows is worse than anything I've felt. I want to scream, to claw this feeling out of me, but it's part of me, inseparable. My family, I need to find them. No. And that's when it hits, the full weight of it. They're gone, forever. I'm the one left here, trapped in this rotting shell, condemned to this endless gnawing hunger. A laugh bubbles up, ragged, hollow. I'm dead, but I'm still here, clinging to what's left of them in my mind, like some kind of pathetic penance. And yet, it'll never be enough to fill the void they left. The hunger stirs again, feeding on the pain, growing with each memory, each regret. But there's something else, faint, a whisper from the last remnants of who I was. You don't have to do this. I close my eyes, letting the memories wash over me, feeling their warmth, their pain. And for a moment, the hunger loosens, slipping back, and I'm just me, a person, a father, a husband. I can stop. I'm trying to cling to that sliver of clarity. I'll stop. But the hunger is there, lurking, waiting. I thought I could stop. I was wrong. The hunger comes back, an unrelenting, insatiable beast. It doesn't care about vows or memories. It rises, drowning every thought, every last shred of who I was. All I know is the hunger, expanding, filling me like rot spreading through flesh. I stumble forward, dragging my feet each step closer to the living. A faint glow of streetlights in the distance pulls me, and even as I scream in my mind to turn back, it's too late. My body isn't listening. A man steps out of a car, his whistling dying the second he catches sight of me. For a heartbeat, there's confusion in his eyes, just a flicker of disbelief. But I'm close enough to feel the warmth radiating off him. Run, I think, but he doesn't get a chance. My hands dig into his shoulders, nails scraping bone. He tries to pull back, but I clamp down my teeth, shredding through his skin. Hot blood gushes into my mouth. It's metallic and raw, filling me with a sick, animalistic thrill. He's screaming, a primal sound that echoes through the night, but it only fuels my hunger. My teeth grind deeper, ripping flesh, crunching tendon. His warm blood splatters hot and sticky over my hands, down my chin. No, no. The words spill out, garbled, thick with blood. Somewhere inside, I want to stop, loosen my grip, let him go. But the hunger claws at me, relentless, drowning out any shred of mercy. My hands keep moving, fingers tearing, teeth sinking deeper until I'm lost in the raw, brutal rhythm, ripping, gnawing, consuming. I don't stop until he's just a bloodied, hollowed shell at my feet, a nightmare painted in red. I stagger back, wiping my mouth. I can still taste him, feel him inside like he's become part of me. I stumble away. The hunger gnaws, relentless, twisting inside me. I turn a corner, desperate to escape, but there's someone else, a woman walking her dog, oblivious. No, please, not again. I beg, but it's useless. My body moves on its own, drawn toward her warmth. Her screams slice through the darkness as my hands latch onto her, fingers digging deep, holding tight. I bite down, tearing into her shoulder, the rush of her blood searing through me. It fills me, but somehow only sharpens the hunger, that endless, insatiable need that nothing, Not even flesh can satisfy. Please, I think, let this end. Let me die. But the hunger, it stirs again. I feel it, low and insistent, an ache that won't go away. I close my eyes, hoping for darkness, for an end. But there's nothing. Nothing but the hunger, whispering. And I know in the deepest part of me that this will never end. I open my eyes, hunger gnawing at my bones, and find myself on a dark street lined with familiar houses. I don't know how I got here. One moment, I was somewhere else, sinking into darkness. Now I'm standing in front of a house that feels known. The porch light flickers weakly, barely alive. My eyes trace the door, the windows, edges worn by years of something I can't name. A tightness clenches in my chest. I'm not supposed to feel anything. But this place presses on me, screaming from a fading part of me I can't reach. I step forward, feet dragging over concrete. My hand, what's left of it, finds the door. I feel the metal, cold, sinking into bone. The door swings open. Inside, the smell hits. Coffee. And something warm, like number stop. But it's too late. I know this smell, this place. My feet pull me inside, down the dark hall. I'm moving without meaning to, my body betraying me, dragged forward. The hunger, that terrible hunger, pushes me on. A sound from upstairs. A creak. Tiny feet across carpet. I know what it is before I see. The hunger digs in, twisting me, urging me up the stairs. I don't want to go, but I can't stop. At the top, a door stands slightly open, a strip of light spilling into the hall. In the center of it, a small shadow shifts. Daddy? The word hangs in the air. Her voice, fragile, like a whisper wrapped in cotton. I try to say her name, to warn her, but all that comes out is a low, guttural growl. Her eyes widen. She steps back, dropping her teddy bear on the floor. Her lips tremble. Daddy? Her face blurs, twisting, fading. But there's something else, a flicker, faint, buried in what's left of me. Love. It's small, fragile, breaking through the cracks, just for a heartbeat. Her name is there, soft and warm. I remember her tiny hand in mine, her laughter, the way she'd look up at me with those trusting eyes, the way she'd curl up against me, safe, warm. I know I would do anything to protect her, anything to keep her safe. But then it's gone, snuffed out as the hunger roars up, an endless gnawing void swallowing everything I was, everything I am, shredding the last scraps of me, chewing up memories, swallowing every last trace of who I was. What's left of me drowns, dragged down, a stone sinking in a black sea. All I hear is the beat of her heart, pulsing warm in the silence. Run. Please, baby, run. But I lurch forward, teeth bared, hands reaching. The hunger takes over. I am gone, RE. The heat, death of the sun. Reality was having a Monday with a capital M. Never mind that it was Thursday. Or that Monday always began with a capitalized M. Or that both Mondays and Thursdays only existed on Earth. That was all beside the point. Ron liked that about Earth, though, the calendars. Really, humans had something special going on with them. They were great with organizational skills, and he appreciated that, given his role as manager of accounts payable. He was just one cog in the existence machine, but lately Ron felt he might be the only one to really give a hoot about the overall health of the industry. The atmosphere of the Division of Material Validity office was drab, sure, but he found his job of keeping existence running to be interesting. There were an infinite amount of vendors that manufactured the various components of reality, and he enjoyed his role of ensuring that those accounts all got paid for their hard work. Ron's day started off fine enough. His boss, Mike, prattled through the morning meeting with his usual ennui before giving him a checklist of urgent tasks. Ron spent his pre-lunch hours ticking off boxes. Pay the universe's monthly time invoice to keep months a thing. Contact maintenance overdue space-time fabric repair on collapsing wormholes in Sector 12. B. Review discrepancy in inertia. Report on galactic planetary rotation. Forward any Earth RFPs titled, "Oh God, please save us," or similar to upper management. He got through the first two in record time, considering he paid time ahead of schedule, but the Monday-ish nature of the Thursday kicked into high gear as he scrolled through an inbox full of dismally titled RFPs. He'd always thought the DMV overpaid realities freelancers, so he was perplexed as to why there seemed to be so many slackers recently. Humans weren't the only ones having issues. The fluxers on Zemulus 237 were freaking out about Zemulus 237 suddenly rotating backwards, but given their sheer amount of messages, humans were definitely making the biggest fuss. He'd been scrolling for the past 15 minutes, and he still hadn't reached the end of this morning's RFPs to the Savior Department alone. Ron glanced across the aisle at Florence's cubicle and saw that she wore a similarly exasperated expression as she looked through them all. It would seem that endless earthen pleas to the heavens were clogging up everyone's inboxes. Ron, frankly, was at his wit's end. He dialed Mike's office phone extension. Why is Earth spewing out so many salvation proposals all of the sudden? Sun's getting too big and hot. They're having a rough go of things. Ron blinked and scrubbed at his forehead. That's odd. I paid Fusion's invoice. I know. They got upper-level orders to churn out more energy, though. Kicked it up yesterday. He sank back into his office chair and rolled his eyes to the ceiling. And upper management didn't communicate that with the rest of us because... Mike snorted. It was just a little tweak to Fusion's workload, not a big issue in the overall grand scheme of things. Ron sighed. Okay, thanks. Forwarding now. Yep. He set the phone back on the receiver and began forwarding messages up the chain of command, but paused at one rather offensive title. He read the message, feeling a bit nosy as he did so. From Alice Kincaid at Earth.Universe.2, all at DMV.Universe.Subject, RFP. We're dying down here, asshole. Hey, God. CNN just announced we have about 6 months before we're cooked. The sun's getting hotter by the day. I can't go outside anymore. I thought we had like a billion-ish years left. At least, that's what the Science Museum exhibit said when I went as a kid. Scared the hell out of me. Always has. But a billion years is a damn long time. 6 months is absolutely not. I would love it if you could make the sun go back to normal. I haven't done everything I wanted to do yet. Please, it's too hot. It hurts. My skin is... Please. More sincerely than I've ever been about anything. Ever. Alice Kincaid. Scowling, Ron called Deity. The line rang for a few long moments, but he was pleasantly surprised when the CEO answered. Hello? Hi, Dee. How's it going? Hey, man. Same old. What's up? I just had a question about Salvation RFPS. Ron could hear Deity typing something as he responded blandly, Shoot. Are you guys doing anything about them? I've forwarded several to you and the board, but they just keep coming. I was going to mark them as spam and wanted to check if you're receiving them without me forwarding. Yeah, spam them. Got it. Ron considered whether it was professional to ask further questions, but his curiosity outweighed his propriety. Are you going to respond to them? Take any of Earth's projects on, I mean? Deity laughed in an offhand way. Nah, I'm phasing out the planet. Humans are too destructive. Tarsonis's Jebulons have their act together a lot better, so the board voted to sell off Earth and invest over there instead. It's a stabler market. He felt a hot stab of dismay at the news and swallowed thickly. Understandable, but can I say? He gave a little laugh. I mean, I know it's way above my pay grade, but... Ron chose his words carefully as he said, humans have been our top client for a few 100,000 years. They've had some centuries of poor performance every now and then, sure, but we've always kept an overall mutually beneficial relationship. It's unfortunate we're ending it on a bad note. Deity clicked his tongue. Speak more freely, Ron. I don't mind hearing your opinion. Ron huffed a chuckle. Don't write them off our books. I like what they put out. Would be a shame to not be able to get their stuff anymore. What sort of stuff? Ron thought for a moment. Well, I enjoy all the love stories. They've got some great food, too. I tried a sandwich once. Phenomenal. And I owe them a debt for coming up with calendars. Deity deliberated silently before replying. Jebulons just created a far superior timekeeping system, and it didn't take them almost 300,000 years to do it. Switch to using theirs. The market's moving on, Ron. Progress with it. I appreciate your input, though. Tell you what, I'll bring up your notes to the board at the next meeting. We may be able to work something out. Ron's shoulders relaxed. Thanks, Dee. Appreciate it. Yep. Have a good one. The line went dead. Ron turned his attention back to Alice's message, his cursor hovering over the mark as spam button. He decided to archive it instead. Ron brooded the entire commute home and concluded that he found the DMV's culture and overall philanthropic approach to be increasingly lackluster. Phasing out Earth was a bad move, plain and simple. He didn't understand the decision, even after hearing Deity's explanation. Jebulons had exited the primitive stage of existence far quicker than humans had. True, but their demeanor was overzealous. The DMV's mailroom was constantly overwhelmed with fanatic offerings, and their adoration always felt just a tad too desperate to be authentic. Humans showed their appreciation for reality in subtler ways. They were intentional with it, more honest. A message of gratitude at receiving a tight embrace from a missed loved one. A whispered, "I owe you" when swimming through crystal water. A salute when a sore knot is worked out of a long, aching muscle. Deity was a great guy, a fantastic CEO, but he had a distinct flair for the dramatic that often left Ron dealing with a nightmare at the office. For instance, around 6,000 years ago, Deity hedged a bet that chemistry wouldn't be able to synthesize enough water for Q3 on their current budget, so he'd ordered Ron to increase their payment. Mike had warned the CEO that doing so would generate far more water than could be tolerated by planets with life forms. But Deity had simply responded that those life forms were underperforming. He'd ordered that a handful of profitable creatures be retained for improved reproduction, and the task fell to Ron to proceed with the higher payment. To this day, Ron felt terrible about flooding every planet across 4 galaxies. He settled into his nightly routine, but he couldn't get Alice's message out of his mind. He pulled up the archived message as he ate his supper. After a stiff drink, He forwarded the correspondence to his personal account, then forwarded it to Alice again with an attached reply. From Ron at personal.universe.2, Alice Kincaid at earth.universe.subject, FW, FW, RFP. We're dying down here, asshole. Hello, Alice. Strictly speaking, it goes against protocol for me to send this message, and you are the first life form to receive such a communication from me, so my apologies for any disruption to your evening. Admittedly, I'm unsure how this message might be received by a human. The purpose of this correspondence is to extend my sincere condolences for your current situation and assure you that your concerns regarding your imminent demise will be thoroughly discussed at the next meeting of our board. Please note, however, that this does not guarantee immediate action. We appreciate your patience during this time. All the best, Ron. Manager, Accounts Payable, Division of Material Validity. Ron sipped on his second drink, feeling a bit more at ease with the situation. His satisfaction dissipated when she returned a response in seconds. From Alice Kincaid at Earth.universe.2, Ron at personal.universe. Subject, indistinct shriek of terror. I apologize, but I need Japanese text to perform the conversion as requested. If you'd like me to demonstrate this capability, please provide Japanese text that includes kanji characters, and I'll convert it according to the guidelines. Ron set down his glass and frowned as he replied. From Ron at personal.universe.2, Alice Kincaid at Earth.universe. Subject, indistinct shriek of terror. Hello, Alice. Your quick response is appreciated, but I am confused as to your meaning. Best, Ron. Alice's reply was instantaneous. From Alice Kincaid at Earth.universe.2, Ron at personal.universe. Subject, indistinct shriek of terror. Get out of my head. Get out. Get out. Are you reading a bloody email? God, it hurts. It hurts. Ron winced, pulled out his phone, and found Alice's alternate contact in the DMV database. He dialed the number for a video call. The image of a hyperventilating woman curled into the fetal position on a dirty floor appeared on the screen. She was covered in patches of charred skin, and her hair was matted with blood in some places. Ah, hello. This is Ron. Please forgive me for calling you at this hour, and for the pain you experienced receiving my initial messages. I wasn't aware my previous form of communication would be painful for a human. She let out a shriek upon seeing him appear in what looked to be her kitchen. Her hands tore at her hair as she mumbled incoherently. Are you all right? It wasn't my intention to startle you. Alice shot to her feet and tugged a large chopping knife from its holder, brandishing it in his face. What are you? Ron's brow furrowed. He'd always assumed humans would recognize a DMV agent, considering all the mail they sent. As I said in my earlier message, I'm the... What the hell? Manager of Accounts Payable at the DMV, he continued as she panted a string of vile curses. I read your RFP meant for the Savior Department, and I felt just awful about what's happening to your son. I thought I'd give you an update personally, maybe alleviate your fears a bit. Her subsequent screech was nearly unintelligible, but Ron deduced through the wailed expletives that she was confused about the nature of the DMV. Please, miss, calm yourself. I'm not technically in the room with you." Alice's eyes bulged, but she stilled, and the knife clattered against the tile floor. The division is quite hard to explain to a life form on your plane of existence, but the short answer is that we manage and regulate that plane. She jabbed a finger in his direction. "So you're the one responsible for making the sun about to explode?" Ron's teeth tugged at his bottom lip. "It's a bit more complicated than that." He lost the battle against his better judgment and gave the terrified woman a simplified explanation of Deity's decision. When he finished, she sank to the floor in a heap and put her filthy head in her hands. "It will be all right. The board will..." Alice breathed a raw laugh. Ron looked at her with concern as the sound grew in broken intensity. "Miss..." "Angels," she choked out between gasping fits of laughter. "And God and reality itself are all just a bunch of corporate goons, and I'm nothing more than an underwhelming employee, and..." Her laughter morphed into weeping. "Oh, that is cruel." She was an underwhelming client, technically, but Ron didn't correct her. "Is there anything more I can do to help you at the moment?" He cringed at the utter devastation on the woman's face as she turned to nod at him. She was silent for a long moment, staring blankly at the heat-yellowed paint of the wall, before she muttered, "Take me back to that museum all those years ago, so I can tell my 10-year-old self to write a lot of books, to read a lot more of them, to learn the guitar, to become a rock star like I always wanted, or maybe an author." Her voice broke as she slowly stood back up. "To hurry up and find the love of my life, because I've spent it entirely alone, to quit my soul-sucking office job, or to not even take it in the first place, to hug my mom long and hard every chance I get, to tell my dad I forgive him, to make peace right then and there with how insignificant I am, because I am." Ron ground his teeth at the volume of her final sentence, shocked at how viscerally uncomfortable the word insignificant made him feel. "I'll be sure to speak to Deity tomorrow at..." Alice threw the knife with all her strength at his projection, ending the call. "I'm sorry, Ron, I am. But there's nothing I can do. We don't undo what's already been done." Chris, the head honcho over at Time, was being irksomely dense. Ron grumbled, gesticulating at the big machine before them. "I know that. Nothing needs to be undone, just done over again. Run Earth's clock backward a bit, only 20 years. Come on, I'll owe you one. Memories on board. They already primed the woman. We're just waiting on you." Chris ran a hand through his silvering hair. "Deity approved this?" "Not as such." "Sure did. For one human woman? Consider it an experiment. You've ran back time before, for far duller reasons. I don't know if I'd consider what we needed done with that woman in the Chaplin film to be..." Ron waved a dismissive hand. "Chris, seriously?" The Time boss rolled his eyes. "Fine. Who, when, and where am I sending her?" Ron explained Alice's plight, and Chris pushed various buttons on the machine. "Just send back her present consciousness into her childhood self. That's it. You do realize that this might kill the woman. We've never reversed memory back into time before." He shrugged and scratched his nose, looking at a sleeping Alice on the screen in front of them. It's an experiment." Chris nodded, then cranked a few more dials. Adult Alice didn't move, but the child Alice on the adjacent screen. Ron cringed as the child screamed and screamed and screamed. Chris sucked in air through his teeth. Child Alice drew frightened looks from the other science museum patrons until finally being subdued by her mother. Ron scratched his temple, chewed the inside of his cheek. The girl screeched, over and over again in her mother's arms. "What's the point?" Chris shut the machine off, locking adult Alice into her child body forever, or at least until the sun exploded. He clapped Ron on the shoulder. "Call that a success?" Ron was silent for a beat, then muttered, "Seems like the quick death of the sun might be preferable to the existential crisis brought on by simply thinking about the slow death of it. Think she'll appreciate her life more, this time around?" "Dunno. Sun's still going to explode on schedule. Board's not budging on it." He sighed. "No one will remember her in the end, even if she does make something out of her life. Or maybe they will for a little while, now that she can change some things. That's all most of us can hope for, really. To not be insignificant. To do something important with our lives." He shot a triumphant smile at Chris, feeling overall very pleased with himself. At least he was able to do this. Change this small thing to help such a lovely planet. Chris shot him a confused look. "Oh no, she can't change anything, man. She did all this screaming the first time around when she learned the sun was going to explode in 1,000,000,000 years too. I told you, nothing can be undone, but she will be able to watch it happen all over again with her adult memories and reasoning. Maybe she'll just learn to be grateful. Humans struggle with that. If you asked me, that's why deity's blowing him up." Ron paled, his grin evaporating. The time boss stretched his arms and cracked his back, and didn't notice the color drain from Ron's face. "Anyway, let's get lunch. You're buying, milk-fed." The town of Gord's Hollow was gaunt and undernourished in nearly every aspect. Its rickety streets laid out like a soothsayer's tangle of oracle bones, and its bedraggled buildings stood lean and haggard, much like the people that lived in them. The whole of it was hunched at the edge of a sea cliff, and mist rising from the crashing waves below hung everything above with a constant pallor. But there, right on the cusp of world's end, where the roar of the sea filled your ears, grew the only thing in Gord's Hollow that could be called hale and hearty, the gourd garden itself. It was this garden that made Gord's Hollow famous in our county. For generations, the emaciated people of the town had inexplicably produced gargantuan gourds that put all others to shame at the harvest festival. Their crooked-necked squash were taller than a man, their zucchinis large as coffins, but it was their pumpkins that drew so much envy. Huge and round and plump, it took 2 teams of oxen just to haul them. At the festival, the pumpkins loomed large over all the proceedings, so large it seemed they could swallow all other entries and have room left over to consume the judge as well. But their size itself was not the most striking element to their appearance, for the pumpkins were also of exceptional color. Their shells were a deep, vibrant orange, so deep and so vibrant as to almost be red. And though no one who was not a citizen of Gord's Hollow had ever seen the pumpkins cracked open, it was rumored the flesh inside was the scarlet color of new blood. It was an October day when I made my visit to Gord's Hollow. They had kept the secret of their pumpkins close for too long, and I was determined to discover their methods for growing them, by honest means or otherwise. Outsiders were uncommon in Gord's Hollow. My presence drew a searching eye from everyone in the streets. Nonetheless, I conducted myself straight to the garden's fence, a spindly wrought iron affair, and gazed through the bars at the great mist-shrouded fruits inside. "They're a sight to see, eh, stranger?" A voice called over the drone of breaking waves. The speaker was slim, as were all the townsfolk, but he wore a smile as he extended a bony hand. "Indeed," I replied, taking his hand. which I noticed felt almost as if it carried no flesh. Would it be possible to get a closer look? I am a botanist, and I have never seen such magnificent plants. Apologies, sir, but I don't carry the key. He nodded towards the chain, wrapped about the gate and secured with a heavy lock. Could you direct me to the person who does? Again, my apologies, but the gourds are off limits to visitors. The man smiled consolingly, and I noticed his gums were nearly the same pale color as his teeth. Could you perhaps answer questions about them then? I am very curious to know how you grow them to such prodigious size. Folks that come here are always wondering about that. He lifted his narrow shoulders. But truth is, there's no mystery to it. They're just milk-fed and tended to with lots of care. I knew about milk-fed pumpkins. It was a simple process. A small slit was made in the pumpkin's vine and submerged in a dish of milk. Capillary action sucked up the nutrients and accelerated growth. Many gardeners in the county employed the technique, but none achieved sizes like those I saw before me. I am astonished to hear that. I have myself grown milk-fed pumpkins, but not to such a result. Aye. Most folks aren't dedicated to it the way we are here. My interlocutor rubbed his arm as he spoke. We tend to our pumpkins day and night like other folks aren't inclined to do. It's just good gardening and the milk that makes them grow. But what about fertilizers and seed selection? Do you plant them under the full moon? Of course we do. The man laughed. But so does everyone else. My name's Jack, by the by. If you have designs on staying the night, my inn is just there. He pointed a skeletal finger towards a corner building with a signboard bearing his name. You'd be most welcome for supper and to stay the night. I thanked him and accepted his offer. At dinner, two things surprised me. First, there was not a single dish served made from the bounty just outside the door. No butternut bisque, no fried eggplant, not even a slice of pumpkin pie. The second was the tremendous appetite of the locals. From people so lean and weedy, I would have expected reticence at table, but they ate with a gusto I could not contend against. Platters of steak and liver disappeared before I could stick a fork in, and where the thin men put it all, I could not say. I spent the evening introducing myself and leading conversations to the topic of pumpkins, but the line I received from every man was well rehearsed. Milk-fed and careful labor, the villagers were ironclad in their conspiracy. Jack was good enough to give me his finest room on the second floor, with a window overlooking the garden. I had a spyglass in my valise, and, unsuccessful at dinner, I hurried upstairs to see what might be seen before sundown. The mist made it difficult to gather much in detail, but I was able to confirm the diligent care provided by the townsfolk. Through my lens, I saw at least a dozen at work among the vines, some using shovels and hoes, as would be expected, and others employing water cans. But my eye was drawn to some who carried crates of dark glass bottles. I noted that the umbilical vines of each gourd had an identical bottle attached. As I watched, the gardeners exchanged the attached bottles for fresh ones from their crates. Ah, the milk, I thought to myself. There was a knock at the door, and I slid my glass away before opening it. Begging your pardon, it was Jack, still rubbing his left arm. Word is, there's a storm blowing in off the ocean tonight. I'll have to close your shutter. He stepped across to the window before I could invite him in, closed and locked the heavy wooden blinds, and then was back down the hall. As the night progressed, there was no storm, but through the cracks in the shutter, I could see lamplight moving about in the garden, enough to indicate a great deal of activity. I pressed my eye hard against the cracks, but could make out nothing. I threw on my coat and decided it was time for stealth. There was no light in the hallway. As I felt my way along, my feet encountered an unexpected obstacle, and I found myself tumbling down the stairs. I lay in the dark moment. Then a match struck, illuminating the proprietor's face, his sunken eye sockets cast in shadow as he descended the stair towards me. "What do you mean tripping up your guests at the top of the stairs?" I said, a little sharp in my unsettlement. "My apologies. It is my habit to wait on the landing in case my guests ring. I must have drifted off. Are you hurt?" Upon examining myself, I saw, though my pant leg was not torn and I felt no particular pain, a stain of fresh blood had formed on the fabric just below my knee. "The town doctor is just a door over," Jack said, seeing the blood. "No need for that. It can't be much." "I insist. I'll not have my guests injured and going untreated, not when the hurt is on my account." He grasped my arm with surprising strength and pulled me to my feet. The doctor's residence was indeed the next door over, and as I was somewhat forcibly escorted, I caught only a glimpse of the gourd patch. The gardeners were busy, their lamps glowing large in the mists, but I could not make out what duties they performed, though it seemed that some of them lay prone on the ground. The doctor was a short man, though still gaunt and hollow-eyed, the same as Jack. He did not seem to have been sleeping before we knocked, and the lamps in his examination room were already lit. As we entered, he stepped quickly to the storeroom door, which had been left slightly ajar. Before he closed it, I saw its shelves were lined with dark glass bottles. "A tumble down the stairs, you say?" The doctor waved me towards a chair. "We'll have you stitched up presently." I sat and allowed him to lift my blood-stained pant leg. I was surprised to see my shin revealed unscathed. The doctor and I both stared a moment. Then I looked at Jack. His left arm, the one he was accustomed to rubbing as he spoke, was held close against his body. I had not noticed before in the dimness of the lamplight that his elbow was dripping wet. "It's not my blood," I exclaimed, feeling foolish to be in the doctor's chair while another man stood injured. "It's yours." Jack looked down at his elbow. The doctor moved swiftly to his cupboard, from which he extracted a tourniquet, and then to Jack's arm, where he applied it with expert efficiency. As I watched the speed at which the doctor worked, I was first impressed by his talent, but secondly, I became impressed by Jack's composure. He stood undisturbed by his treatment, as if it happened every day. Then I wondered that neither man had taken a moment to examine the source of the blood, but proceeded as if they already knew where the laceration lay. As I considered this, a horror needled into my brain. "Milk-fed," I whispered. Both men turned, their deep-set eyes glinting in the lamplight. "What was that?" Jack asked, his voice soft. "It's not milk. What you feed to the gourds, is it?" Neither man replied. "It's a wickedness," I said. They seized me, one on either side. "My apologies," Jack said. "It would have been better if you'd not come to our town." With strength, I could not resist. The two men pulled me outside. The doctor lit a lamp, and I was pushed towards the wrought iron garden gate. The glow of workers' lights haloed the gourds as I was drug along. The crooked necks stood taller than my head, and the marrow squash were laid above the ground like unburied coffins. At the foot, the great orange gourd, I was forced to my knees. "This is what it takes to grow them to such magnificence," Jack hissed as he bound me hand and foot. I waited to feel the bite of a scalpel in my inner arm. Instead, I was thrust face down, then it seemed, left alone. The lamplight faded, and I heard nothing but the droning of the waves below the sea cliffs. Ha! I laughed to myself, suddenly realizing what I had done. I'd come to Gord's Hollow to steal their pumpkin-growing secrets so I could beat them at the festival. But I had been seen through, and this was their prank to teach me a lesson. I raised my head to cry that I knew the game was up, but before my mouth could open, I heard a quiet sound, subtler than the distant waves. It was a sound of movement, like tiny curly vines worming over crumbly loam, a sound of searching, like a great umbilical stem yearning to be fed, and then with a prick of pain, a sound of gentle susurration, as of a baby's mouth sucking fresh warm milk. The Bruha and The Bruho Clay was driving west on I-270 towards St. Louis. The radio was off. He was alone with his thoughts. His father had died 2 days ago, and he was on his way from Chicago to the services, trying to reconcile his feelings on the road. He loved his father, but the old man was very difficult at times. He didn't really view Clay as his son. He viewed him as his private property, to do with as he wished. It was always football practice, baseball games, wrestling meets, karate lessons, and more. Sometimes Clay just wanted to hang out with his friends and play some video games, but there was rarely much time for that. His father spent 22 years in the U.S. Marine Corps. The red light behind the gas gauge lit up. He meant to stop and fuel up an hour ago, but he was lost in thought. Now he was in the middle of nowhere, and who knew where the closest gas station might be? Hopefully something would come up soon. He stopped thinking about his father as this practical concern overrode all else until it was resolved. He saw an exit sign ahead, Snaretown Road. Some little burg out here in the sticks, but there was a faded blue sign showing the standard highway gas station symbol. He exhaled and took the exit. At the end of the off-ramp, he saw nothing but empty road running off to the left, but to his right, he could see what looked like a small village about a mile down the road. He turned in that direction. When he reached it, he realized that you couldn't really call it a village. It consisted of just 3 blocks of commercial space. Most locations were unoccupied, he noticed, with a small grid of houses just behind on either side of the road. There couldn't be more than a few hundred people living there in total. He saw the gas station up ahead on the right and pulled in. Fuck. The gas station was closed, yellow tape around all of the pumps. It looked like it had been closed for years. Why didn't they take that sign down on the highway exit? He didn't know if he could make it to the next gas station, wherever that was, with what was left in the tank. There was a convenience market attached to the gas station, and the lights were off inside. But the door opened, and 2 men came out. They were somewhere in their 50s, or maybe earlier 60s, and they were dressed alike in thick plaid shirts, denim jeans, and brown boots. They waved to Clay and approached his car with friendly smiles. Clay rolled down his window. "Hey there. What can we do you for?" Was there a nervous cast to their smiles? "I just pulled off I-270 for gas, but it looks like I'm out of luck here. Do you know where I can find the closest station?" The 2 men began responding at the same time, but then one deferred to the other. "Yes, sir. You want to just turn right back around, the way you came, and if you continue west on the 270, you'll see an exit for, Williams Village Road, just a few miles down, and they've got a couple of stations there. Good luck to you now." They just stared at him awkwardly, and Clay thanked them and pulled out of the gas station back towards the highway, praying he could make it to Williams Village Road. The needle was right on E. He didn't remember the drive from the highway exit to that little village being so far, but he could not even see the interstate from where he was. He also didn't pass through any other towns or villages when he turned off onto Snaretown Road, but now he saw one up ahead. Just a little 3-block main street surrounded by some homes. When he arrived there, he saw the same vacant gas station with the yellow tape around the pumps, the place he just drove away from less than 5 minutes earlier. He tapped the brakes, and when he saw the 2 men standing there in their plaid shirts, he pulled in again and rolled down his window. The nervous smiles were gone. Now they just looked nervous, their faces somewhat ashen. The one who had provided the directions to Williams Village Road spoke up. "Hey there, partner. Did you get turned around or something?" He looked around. Clay had a very strange feeling in his gut. Not a good feeling. "I don't think so. I headed right back down this road towards the highway. I don't know how it could have possibly happened." The 2 men looked at each other briefly. "Well, there's a sneaky turnoff down there that basically loops you back around to here. I'm sure that's what probably happened. You wouldn't be the first. Tell you what, why don't you just make a right turn out of here and stay straight on this road until you reach the 270, and then you just hop on the westbound ramp. You'll be down there at Williams Village Road in no time." After a moment, he nervously added, "Go on now. Good luck." He looked around, and Clay thanked him and followed the directions, which were entirely uncomplicated. Once again, he followed the road back to the interstate, and once again, he drove for a few minutes and arrived back in that same small town with the defunct old gas station. The 2 men in plaid shirts were still standing there by the pumps, staring in his direction. Clay tapped the brakes and pulled in. This time, he killed the engine and stepped out. "Guys, what's going on here?" They stared at each other with grave expressions for a moment, and the one who had done all the talking so far continued to do so. He crossed his arms over his chest and looked down at the pavement. "Well, fella, I'm afraid we have some bad news for you. And you're not going to believe it when I tell it to you now. But eventually, I'm afraid you will know that it's all true." He paused and took a deep breath. Clay's heart started beating harder. The man pointed up to some low wooded hills just beyond the patchwork of homes that made up the little village. "So, for as long as anyone around here can remember, there has been an old house up there in them woods that was home to an old woman and an old man. They came here from somewhere just outside of Mexico City many years ago. They lived way down in Chiapas before that. Old as they were, they lived on as other folks born. Well, after them lived long lives and passed away. The old woman and the old man just kept carrying on. They didn't come down to the village here often, but when they did come down, they always looked a little older, but somehow they were still carrying on." He paused and looked at his partner in plaid. "Charlie, you want to take over here? You can probably tell it better than I can." The other man cleared his throat. "Yeah, sure. So, as Marty was just saying, the old woman and the old man who lived in that old ramshackle house up there in the hills didn't come down here to the village too often. They didn't have to. Now, here's where you're gonna stop believing any of this. But it's true. They didn't have to come down here to the village because if they needed anything, they had a pair of twin gray wolves, and they would just send them down. Those 2 would get whatever they needed. They would just walk into a store, pull the items that were needed off the shelves, and then growl viciously at someone in the store, they didn't care who, until they packed up all those items and followed those wolves back to the old house up there in the hills." Charlie paused to gauge Clay's reaction to this. Normally, Clay would dismiss this sort of fairy tale stuff instantly, but his head was still spinning from what had just happened when he tried to drive back to the interstate, so he continued to listen, wondering where this was all going. Well, sometimes the old woman and the old man did come down to the village. When the weather was nice and when the 4th of July fireworks were in flight, they were sometimes seen walking slowly together, hand in hand. The locals who lived here for a while all called them the Bruha, her, and the Bruho, him. I don't know how that started. It's just what people called them. Maybe they introduced themselves that way at some time. Anyway, one long summer day many years ago, no one can say just how many, they came down into the village. They were walking slowly down this sidewalk right here when some drunk driver came off the interstate in a big old SUV, looking for gas and more beer, and he swerved just enough to run the Bruha down. She was killed instantly, and the Bruho screamed in fury as the man exited his vehicle. Mere moments later, the twin wolves were there, and they had him surrounded, snarling with rage and snapping their teeth at him. The Bruho pointed down at the old woman, and without saying a word, the driver lifted her body and followed the old man back up to the old ramshackle house in the hills, the 2 wolves trailing behind. He paused there and raised his eyebrows, giving Clay a chance to ask any questions or express his disbelief. Clay just stared back at him, waiting to hear the rest of the tale. Charlie continued, "Well, that's when things changed around here for good. For starters, all of the usual deliveries that we received every week, food, gas, prescription drugs, retail products like clothing and shoes and such, just all stopped coming one day. That was the day that we woke up and found that drunk driver crucified by the side of the road just down there. He had a sign hung around his neck that read, 'Do not touch me,' and no one was brave enough to defy that warning. He stayed up there for almost a year, the crows picking the flesh off his bones. And then one day, there was a storm, and the crucifix was blown down. You can still see the remains of his bones in the tall grass over there. Anyway, after that, no one could leave. There were 188 people living here at that time. Any time that any one of us attempted to drive down towards the interstate and away from Snaretown Road, we ended up right back here, just like you did. Outsiders like you have turned up here over the years, and most of the time they were able to leave. But some, like you, found themselves unable to leave. No one knows why, but I assure you, it is real. You're with us now. I'm sure you seriously doubt all of this, but someday, you will be buried here." Marty nodded, and Charlie paused again, and this time, Clay was done listening to the story. He walked back to the car door. "Look, I don't know what kind of scam or joke you're trying to pull here, but I think I've heard enough. I'm leaving now." "See you soon," Marty said quietly and waved goodbye. He did not smile. About 5 minutes later, Clay pulled into the gas station again from the opposite direction. Marty and Charlie were still standing right where they were when he left. He put the car in park and rested his forehead on the steering wheel for a short time. Then he exited the vehicle. "All right, what the hell is going on here?" "Charlie just told you." Clay lifted his chin. "Okay, well, if there are no supplies coming into town, how do you all survive? What do you eat?" Charlie said, "Come with me," and walked back into the convenience market. It was mostly empty, with the exception of a few chairs and a fold-out table with a deck of cards on top. There was also a cold case, which was almost completely empty, and one of those large freezer chests that most people keep in their basement or garage. Charlie lifted the lid. It was empty. Every morning, me and Marty come down here at 8 o'clock and we check the case. Sometimes there's enough food for everyone. Sometimes there's only half that. On some days, there's just nothing at all. It's almost always frozen dinners and canned goods, but sometimes we find a bag of apples or oranges. And when someone here in town is sick, we will occasionally find a bag of prescription medications. Not always. One day there was a chainsaw, and that afternoon we got hit by a nasty tornado that knocked trees down all around. Knocked down some power lines too, but the power stayed on anyway. We lost our phone lines, cellular signal, and internet connections when it all started, but for some reason the lights have stayed on and the plumbing still works. We just can't reach the outside world. No one knows why, and no one is willing to speak with the Bruho about it. He almost never comes down to the village anymore. When he does, he is always flanked by those two gray wolves. Clay tried to process all of it. The initial instinct of his rational mind was to call bullshit on the whole thing. But he also knew what had just happened each time he attempted to leave the village. He needed air. He stepped outside and leaned against the fender of his car, parked by the dead gas pumps. Charlie and Marty stayed inside and spoke to one another for a little while, and then they walked out and rejoined Clay. "I'm sorry, partner. I didn't catch your name." Clay introduced himself. "Well, Clay, we have lost many of our older neighbors over the years, and not too many new ones have arrived to replace them. The last one before you was Jimmy Gillis from Kansas City, and that was over 4 years ago. As a result, we have quite a few unoccupied houses where we can set you up." Charlie looked at Marty and said, "I'm thinking Benny McCabe's place would do nicely. It's small, but he and his brother did a lot of remodeling work before it all started, and it's still in very good shape." Marty nodded. "Sure. Come on, Clay. It's just down the block here. You can leave your car there for now. It will be fine. Not that you'll ever need it again." Neither of the older men chuckled at this. It was not intended to be a joke. Clay was just trying to make sense of it all as he followed them down the block to the house. He definitely hadn't given up hope of leaving here as soon as possible, but he didn't have a plan. He needed time to think. The house would give him some time to do this on his own. Charlie and Marty showed Clay around the single-story, two-bedroom home. It was nice enough. And afterwards, they walked around the little village for a while and introduced him to some of his new neighbors. Everyone was nice, but everyone was also just off in one way or another. They all seemed a bit haunted, a bit broken, and that was right there on the surface. You couldn't miss it. Afterwards, Clay pulled his car down the block and parked it in front of his temporary new residence. He pulled his suitcase from the trunk and brought it inside. Marty came by with a frozen pizza and 2 cans of soda for his dinner. That night, lying in bed, Clay never even came close to finding sleep. He stared up into the darkness and contemplated his situation, his reality. The more he thought about it, the less he believed it. He was educated and not given to belief in the supernatural. This had to be some kind of trick or illusion. He couldn't understand the purpose, but he didn't want to find out too late that he had been trapped into some weird sacrificial cult or something like that. As the hours went by, he became more and more sure of his conviction that this was not real. He thought about the half-mad people he had met while walking the neighborhood with Charlie and Marty that evening. He had no desire to remain here another second. There had to be a way out. And this story about the Bruha and the Bruho, it was all just too much to accept. This was crazy. He had to be at his father's funeral. He had to get there somehow. He decided to leave. He got up and packed his things back into the suitcase and walked out to the front door. When he opened it, a pair of very large twin gray wolves sat there on the porch, perfectly still except for their yellow eyes. He recoiled instinctively and took a step back, The wolves let out a low growl simultaneously, but remained still. Clay slowly shut the front door to his new home and went back to bed. He would not be at his father's funeral. He knew that now. He wasn't going anywhere.